Justin, when was it that you said in your life that you wanted to become a musician?
I would think I said it to myself, I suppose, at about as young as maybe 5 or 6 years old. And then I remember expressing it to my parents and going through piano lessons, obligatory kind of piano lessons, which I found really difficult, but at least it did teach me the basics of the instrument. But most of all, I just wanted to play the guitar and have that freedom, and so that's what I did.
What was playing in the Hayward household, the music that was playing as you were growing up with your family?
Well, as I was growing up, we didn't have a TV, so it was the radio, and the radio really for kids like me growing up in England at that time, it was the BBC. Controlled all of the broadcasting, and so there was only one real channel that you could listen to, which was the light program, which was popular music and comedy and a little bit of talk and stuff like that, and some serials, you know, like soap opera serial type things. But there was a few programs on a week that had real pop music and a little bit of the sort of new music, a little bit of rock and roll just starting. And the first people I remember really paying attention to were people like Johnny Ray and stuff like that. And then of course there was in the mid-50s started up a station called Radio Luxembourg, broadcasting out of Luxembourg, that would broadcast between about 7 and midnight. Kept moving on and off the station, fading, because there was a lot of other kind of Eastern European stuff coming through. But they would play all pop music, English and American pop music, and that was real heaven, you know, fantastic.
What was the first song you ever wrote?
First song I ever wrote was a song with some guys in a band, and we were called All Things Bright. We were called All Things Bright, and we wrote a song called Oasis, an instrumental song. Kind of like the Ventures sort of stuff.
All right, so if you had to tell me then, musically, what was then your big break?
Well, when my big break was my parents encouraging me to carry on with music, because a lot of boys I know that I was in bands with when I was at school, you know, their parents just didn't want to know about them carrying on. But as soon as I left school, my parents said, okay, fine, you can do whatever you want. And so I was 15, coming on 16, and I answered an ad in the British music business paper called The Melody Maker. And it said, named singer looking for new members of backing group or something. And I went up to a house in East London and knocked on the door, and a guy called Marty Wilde opened the door. And it's quite imposing when Marty Wilde opens the door, because he's 6'5", and I mean I'm 6'2", but I spent the next 2.5 years feeling small, you know, and it was quite unusual for me. But so that, and Marty was my big break, and Marty, I learned so much from Marty the two years that I was with him, and just watching him on stage, and just being with him, the way he presented himself and the way he put himself over. And he was a songwriter too. He wrote a lot of his own hits, and he really told me then, to survive in this business you've got to have your own identity and your own style, and that's really when I started writing seriously, I suppose, when I was 16, 17.